Hi, Ralph.
Hi.
I'm introducing Ralph Steele. Welcome to Tuesday with Tammy. Ralph, there's so much to say about you and the projects you take on that I would need longer than an hour. So I think it best I will mention a few things and you could fill in a bit of the gaps. And if people want to read more about you, and they can find you on lifetransition.com, and I'm going to put everything in the notes. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thanks. Yes. And if people wants my email, it's info@lifetransition.com. And so keep it easy.
Great.
Yes.
And I'll put that in the notes as well. So you're the founder. Let's tell my listeners they can find articles you've written as well as professional background information. And I'll list a little bit here. I like the saying, one can read or one can experience. So I'll just tell my listeners a little bit about Ralph here. Ralph Steele, the founder of Life Transition Meditation Center in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And you've served as the guiding meditation teacher. You practice, let's see if I could pronounce this correctly, Theravada Buddhist meditation. Is that correct?
That's very good.
For over 3 decades and taught since 1987, including such venues as Spirit Rock Meditation Center and Insight Meditation Society. You have completed a year of intensive practice as a monk in Burma and Thailand. Along with your interest in preserving the Theravada tradition and dedicated to making the Dharma available to cultural diverse populations. I love that. And you've done a great deal of work with cultural diversity and work with youths around the world. You have an MA degree from the University of Santa Clara in marriage, family, and child therapy. I feel as I write and talk about this, I haven't even touched the tip of the iceberg. You are instrumental in transitioning the EKR hospice program from a 2-year associate's degree program to a master's degree program in grief, bereavement, and counseling. If I said that right. That's really, really incredible. Ralph studied for 9 years to become certified as a trauma practitioner, initially with the Somatic Experiencing Trauma Treatment Institute, and with Raja Selvan, PhD, for his certification in Integral Somatic Psychology. And interesting how we met. Well, now you remember, huh? I was recently, then going through moving and selling my home in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I came upon a new friend named Regina Water Spirit, whom was very close to Bearheart, also a friend of yours, huh, Ralph? And it's funny looking back, but at the time, I learned in life to just go with the flow. She wanted to see you for a therapy session and wanted me to sit along. And I think I learned in my life, this is normal in my world, and to just go with the flow, like I said. I agree, and we drove to Santa Fe from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and that was my very first time meeting you. I just remember thinking what a very fascinating human being. I decided to meet and chat with you on my own, and the rest is history. I love how you are so straight and direct with your approach, and I felt a connection with you immediately. I loved your office space in the most beautiful, peaceful place in Santa Fe, New Mexico. The bird audubon is close proximity, and I love the hummingbirds. I used to go over there right beforehand. I believe now you're working from your beautiful home, and you, let's see, you re-taught me how to breathe and to get out of my head. I learned about somatic meditation, etc. from you. I love the saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. I was recently reading your article in the lineage of Sister Mary. So I'm going to read this. This is something you wrote, of course. Sister Mary was my earliest lesson in what we call mindfulness. I love that statement, and in Buddhism, suffering is a part of love. That statement, suffering is a part of inhabiting a human body. When we encounter belief systems that seem unrealistic, we're apt to strike out against them. Racism itself is like lightning in pine trees. The arrow goes back and forth. You don't know what caused which one to strike the other. Who is the lightning and who is the pine tree? Having left the serenity of Polly's Island behind, Ralph said he found himself in a storm rather than observing it. I love that. It's beautiful. Tending the fire through war and the path of meditation, raised on South Carolina Sea Island, tempered by experiences in the Vietnam War, and trained as a psychotherapist. Ralph Steele, whom I'm talking to, decided midlife that tending the fire of his life would be to take robes as a forest monk in Thailand, Myanmar, for a year or for a lifetime. He wasn't sure at the time. And you left your career and 20-year relationship without knowing if you would return. Tending the fire is a gripping, enlightening, and very human story of Ralph's transformative journey through war, meditation, and to a sense of wholeness, responsibility, peace, and compassion. I recommend everyone to read this heart-gripping and enlightening story. Naturally, you're married to someone very talented and amazing as well, Sabine Schultz Steele. And I only want to mention what she has developed recently, I believe, a photography-based teaching tool for trauma clients who wish to establish supportive routines, connect with nature, and express themselves creatively. I love it. Especially during this coronavirus pandemic, Sabine has put together several books of her nature imagery and poetry. I think that's very credible and touching. And Ralph Steele has studied with, I will let Ralph say the first two. Let's see, I'll try. Lama Thupten, Yeshe.
Very good.
Thank you. Sogyo Rinpoche?
Rinpoche, correct.
Thank you. PeterLevine and JackKornfield, among others. You teach meditation and work with emotional and physical pain and management in Santa Fe, New Mexico clinic, well, now from your home, called Life Transition Therapy. Ralph, here's one of my questions for you. Why did you decide to make Santa Fe, New Mexico your home? And what inspired this incredible decision that you felt home in this location?
Okay. EKR, first there's some correction. EKR, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross Hospice Center. That's what EKR is about. And it's now Life Transition Meditation Center here. It's nonprofit. Coming to New Mexico, was going through PTSD very badly. And there's not a lot of human beings in this state. We just went over 2 million. And a lot of people don't know of this, but this state houses more veterans per capita than any other state in the country, because there's just not a lot of people here. So that means it's very quiet. And it's a museum of volcanoes. That's another thing. And so the landscape there's nothing like it on the planet like this. So my first 10 years, all I did was backpack. And I made it a model not to have my sleeping bag rolled out below 10,000 feet. And so it's a really nice state and a nice part of the earth. And you can count 5 planets at night with the naked eye.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Where does this incredible heart connection come from? Perhaps Sister Mary, who raised you.
Yeah, well, that's the island. And of course, Sister Mary, I haven't heard that article in a while. Thank you for reading that again. English is my second language. Color is my root. And islanders, we take care of each other. And it's different than the rest of the African Americans in the country. Taking care of each other, meaning like when a house burned down, there was no such thing in my consciousness as a medical doctor or fire truck. So when a house burned down, it burns down. If you couldn't pump enough pumps with regards to the water, hand pump. And the communication center was the church. And so my cousins, because I was young, would come together at the church, and uncles. And the next day, people are rebuilding that person's home. Going in the woods to get the lumber. There's no such thing as a lumber yard or going into town or anything like that. So just going in the woods to look for the right kinds of trees and so forth, and cutting it down and working it, and rebuilding the person's home. So this is what I meant when I said we take care of each other.
Exactly. I know, reading your stories about her, she seemed like such an amazing inspiration and loving person. I just felt that.
Yeah, she is. She, at one point, she's the only person I know of that you can just write her name Pawleys Island, South Carolina, the zip code, and she will receive it. And she's definitely a senior elder and very much revered. And that's how elders are when people become elders on the island. Still to this day, even though it has changed dramatically, but people still take care of each other. And it's just a wonderful place to have your childhood life, even though the sickness part, I didn't like that part of, the basic kinds of illness of the chicken pox, the measles, and so forth. It was all herbs, and people call it then, and outside of Pawleys Island, people would reference this as voodoo, and people just think of the mystical or the evil part of voodoo, but it's a very herbal application. And to this day, my body is very much sensitive to any kind of prescription because it's all herbs, and even down to an aspirin. And being in my body at 70, and when the doctor at the VA hospital said, you need to be on statin and a heart medication. I said, my heart is excellent. You just told me I have a good heart. Well, according to statistics, you need to be on statin. I said, what do you mean, according to statistics? And he said, well, here's the African American statistics, and so you should be on statin with regards to blood pressure. I said, no, thank you. Well, I'm a doctor, and I have to, well, you shouldn't prescribe that, because when it comes to my home, it's going to go straight in the garbage can. And so, would you please take an aspirin at least? And I said, no, thank you very much. I said, I'm in charge of my body. And there's a lot of people who are not in charge of their body, and didn't have the kind of lifestyle that I had. So I'm glad I have a healthy body, can still do different kinds of physical activities.
I love that story, and I love that you listen to your body and want to give it what it needs organically.
Yes.
And it's true. Most people just listen to the doctor, and I believe, like you said, we know what's best for us a lot of times if we're in tune.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You give back so much to people in need, and you genuinely care about people. Is this something that's always has been there, or you made that decision with yourself to give back?
Well, when I was a kid, my grandfather also, Sister Mary's husband, he was an elder as well, and our mode of transportation was a horse and wagon. And the people who didn't go to church on Sunday morning, I hated church. I hated church because you're in there all day from 9 to around 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And then the next day you have to go back to school. So that's why I hate church, didn't have time to play. But the people who didn't make it to church, the elders, or even the young ones, after church, we would go around to their homes and check on them, see how they're doing. He would spend some time with them and so forth. And very caring. And it'd be like sometimes 6 to 7 p.m. by the time we get home. Sometimes it's dark. And so that's, osmosis, I'm pretty sure, most definitely, of how that began to trickle down into my system with regards to caring. And Sister Mary, she was always a caring person. And just moving on in life, my mom, during the Vietnam War, when we were living in Japan, she volunteered. She did a lot of volunteering, but one was to be what they called them, a candy girl, a candy striper. But when the medical plane going back to the States from Vietnam, she would go on the plane and give various kinds of eateries to the soldiers and have conversation with them and everything. Just very caring and kind. And the other thing that comes to my mind is she worked in a leprosy camp. She volunteered for that. So the caring part and taking care is sort of, like I said, osmosis. And now at my age now, I don't want to retire, because when people retire, I've noticed more people die. And so I'm not ready to die yet. It's like quitting. And so there is a point in life where you give back, and I never knew that I would make it to this point. And so I'm at a point of giving back, and that's quite amazing. And so I enjoy helping people. Yes.
Thanks for sharing that. I appreciate it. It's a beautiful story. All right, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. I love this quote. We may have all come on different ships, but we're all in the same boat now. And that's something you had, you know.
Yeah, it's quite amazing. Coming out of an era myself, my own bones, of growing up where race was separated, colored, white beach, colored beach, white bathroom, colored bathroom or toilet, drinking fountain. I know that was quite expensive for the system, to do that. But the clash would raise to now, like my elders has always said, there's nothing new under the sun, boy. And it's still to this day is not that much changed. The outside has changed, the cover has changed a little bit, but down inside, women across the board, across the planet, is still like they're not even in the kitchen. I don't even know if they're in the bedroom. Let's just say that's just how bad it is. Even though it looks like we have women in the workplace and in this country, it looks like that. It looks like, and the wages and everything, but men don't get it that we come from women, is not the other way around. And they just don't get that piece. And they are the mother. And so there's so much we have to learn as human beings. And of course, it's not going to be learned in my lifetime and the next, because I haven't seen that much change. Like I said, maybe 10%. And 10 to 15, 10 to 15. I'll push it to 15%. And and there are great people like Dr. Martin Luther King, Sister Rosa Parks, just in that particular race, that has made a statement and sort of help the human population a little bit. And we had an African American president, but it was glad to see him there, him and his wife. And it was super glad to see him leave, because during the time he was in, it like I was at a reunion with friends, and everyone, and he was in office, and everyone said, "Do you think it's more racist now since we have a black president?" No one hesitated. Everybody's hands just jumped up real quick. So we as human beings is the learning how to get along that's going to take some time. I do love the new generation. They're in the street around the globe, and they're totally different than the generation in the 60s. But just as angry, but they're utilizing their heart and their wisdom and being clever with regards to talking to the system, the various government globally, and they're making changes, and that's a wonderful thing. I admire them and I support them. It's quite good. You know, when people said enough is enough, because if it was just one race out there in the street of non-white, it would be different. It would be quite different. It would be a lot of blood, a lot of blood. And so it's human beings out there now. It's not just one race. It's human beings that's out there as stating one race, and enough is enough. And so it is interesting time, but it's always been interesting times. And so that's another thing. It's we just need to take care of each other. But if you don't know how to take care of yourself, how can you take care of somebody else?
Such a true statement. And yes, thank you for that. Love it. And you're a little older than me, so you've seen a lot more than I've seen. You've been around.
Just a little bit.
Just a
I
little.
go back to the island. I'm quite young, so just a little bit. So I'm not that old.
Exactly. But thank you. I love that.
Yeah.
I can go on and on because I feel you are like magic that one needs to taste, to experience. I know you also work with prisoners. If you want to talk briefly about this and anything you like.
That's a different world in the US of A. And yes, I've done some retreats at San Quentin in California. And I remember one moment, my first day there, they put me inside of a church. A lot of people don't know, but in every prison, maximum security, on the other side of the wall, there's a church. The walls are so tall that you just don't know that. So I was in this cathedral, and I was sitting there by myself for a little over 2 hours, and I was getting kind of antsy, what's going on? And all of a sudden, men started walking in. And as they were walking in, tears were coming down my eyes. Because I haven't seen any human beings like that since I was a monastic. These guys, wow, they're amazing. You know, they decided to, whatever they did out there in the world and their attitude or whatever, they decided internally to stop and begin to do whatever practice that they choose to do. And the result of that is just amazing. You know, practice is like another way of digging a hole, and you stay with it, eventually you will find some water amongst other kinds of perhaps special minerals and everything. And they're amazing men. And like they said, we just wanted to see who you are, what you're up to. And I mean, they were great beings. Not were, they are great beings. And of course, according to the law, of course, what they did, they are serving their time, and the majority that I was with, they're never going to get out. And we didn't even had that conversation, and I don't even know if they want to get out. They're enjoying themselves. When you find out who you are, it doesn't matter where your bones are. You're having a good time, and it is another world. All maximum security in this country. Each prison system is average somewhere around 5,000 each one. That's a lot of human beings, especially just like in the state of New York. Just there are 23, 24 prisons, 17 of them are maximum security. So, and every day somebody dies or really go to the hospital in serious bad shape. And and it's a whole, like I said, it is a world that the greater public just don't know of. And it's not a rehabilitation center. San Quentin is interesting. Another word for San Quentin prison is, they call it the Harvard of the prison system. But like they said, you go in prison and if you come out, you're worse off than when you went in. But that's our system. And something like percentage-wise of culturally, I believe, what comes to my mind, you can Google this to get the accurate count. African Americans is something like somewhere around 16% of the population, and about 35-40% of us is in prison. So but we don't have a rehabilitation system. We just have a lockup system and survival. I mean, there's been music and song over the prison of Angola in Louisiana, and I've worked in an outreach prison project there in New Orleans, and it's intense. And the men that I had the privilege of being with, and like they said, for them to get out, they had to give up their body. That's the only way they was going to get out. And so it's a world where the greater population don't even want to know about, and it's, you can say, my last note on this, I would say this is like the crown of suffering is our prison system. The people that's, as they go through their daily activity, that's the crown of suffering in America.
Mm-hmm. And thank you for that, Ralph. We would need way longer than 30 minutes or an hour to try to fix something of that nature, and a lot more people involved, that's for sure.
Yes.
Perhaps you have experiences that someone might never heard of, or my listeners' minds can now expand to any story or talk you would like to share. We shall keep the conditioning and our patterns we learned out of the way and be open-minded in listening to your story.
You're so clever. Well, there's this program that I put together, a meditation-based program 4 years ago in April. This coming April will be 4 years ago, 2017. And, excuse me, is to help people to help themselves. We all want to be independent, but unintentionally we are so dependent and not wanting to admit it, even though it does take a community, but you still need to learn how to help yourself. So I put the program together titled Embodying Emotions with Somatic Meditation, somatic body with body meditation. And it seems as though consciousness and the human beings globally is ready for this. The reason why I'm saying that is because recently there was a conference based in the UK, online of course, and titled The Embodiment Conference. And I had the privilege to be on the faculty of 1,000 people. And it didn't cost anything. And it was close to 500,000 people that participated in this. It's accessible. And so people were, just go with your imagination with regards to embodiment, as well as researchers sharing. And it's, consciousness is just changing so rapidly. It used to be soul and spirit. Now it's subtle body, referencing the same object, and quantum physics, referencing the same entity. So it's learning how to work with this since we are that. And so this package of putting together something with regards to working with one's emotions, another way of saying traumatization, but working with your emotions. And nobody knows each other. Nobody knows the other person's character. You know the other person's name, but you don't know their situation or their storyline. And so it's just remarkable to see people go through this 7-week, 2 hours a week process, and with 7 people, 4 to 7 people per class, in the course. And to reference what you just alluded to, people learn about, get insight. They know their patterns, but they never really paid attention to it. And I'm opening up behavior here. And so in that behavior is patterns. And then there's one conditioning. And then you begin to get some understanding. The reason why we have conditioning is based on our own belief systems. I'm not even talking about societal belief system or rules and regulations. And and we regulate, we self-regulate. How do we regulate? We regulate all kinds of different ways. Go with your imagination. And somewhere down the line, people get it that their bones, what I call bones, your body, just doesn't live forever. And it's going to eventually die. But each human beings need to get that, and they get that on their own accord. And when they get that, they really begin to wake up. Holy cow. I mean, it doesn't matter how many funerals or veterans, you get it. But non-vets, there's more non-vets than veterans. And when you get that you're really gonna die, then you have a whole different outlook on life, and it begins on internally on your own quality of life and how you want to live. And this is not by the month or by the year, this is by not even by the day, this is by the breath, by the moment, each breath, because it's not linear anymore. You used to think about it as linear. And then when you realize, holy cow, death can come and get me at any time, any kind of condition or shape I'm in, I can be in perfect, optimal health, and death can just come and get me. No reason. And so we have heard of people dying all kinds of different ways. And there's so many human beings on the planet now. Oh boy. You know, my generation and your generation, all of us, we're the first generation in the lifetime of this planet, of the planet going from 1 billion to another billion. And we're about to go to 8 billion soon. And that's 3 times in our own lifetime when that happened. That's amazing. That's actually amazing. And so everything is being amplified, the good and the bad, just everything is just more of us on the planet. And I'm not in the law or government or management. And so the management is going to be so important. And it's about this. Everything. It's no one way to look at this when there's so many of us. So it's this program I've put together. It's actually in various countries now, and it's wonderful to watch people from the beginning to the end. And I had to make up an advanced group, 2 different levels, because people requested that. And that's really good. It's good for myself because it's making me just pull everything I've learned in life and put it together and share the application because I know it works. It worked for me and it worked for so many when I did have a clinical practice. So I watching human beings, it doesn't matter what kind of, mostly doesn't matter what kind of diagnosis they may have had, even if they've had a diagnosis, some of them haven't. And so it's been brothers and sisters, mothers and their grandma, sisters and their 3 sisters, all kinds of combination, medical, whole team of just psychiatrists, family physicians that went through this process, and just watching human beings so they can be a better human being to themselves. And of course, if you can shine better within, then the outside is second nature with regards to being there for another person or just being a lighthouse for another person. So that's the most interesting thing that I have to share, that I'm continuing to enjoy, and my board itself, they all have went through the process, and even the fee itself. I spent a whole year researching it, and it's from the homeless to whoever. It doesn't matter. It's not about the money with regards to this. It's about helping yourself. And people get that. Yeah, initially, the most common phrase is, I don't know about the money or the fee. I said, well, you need to read it again, and read it again. And they're still, wow, this is interesting. Are you sure this is reputable? And even though it's endorsed for credits for some professionals and everything, but people are just not used to getting something where it only requires their effort. And if they apply their effort, what they get out is just amazing. And that's new. That's very new for in my arena environment. And it's just new for them.
Thank you so much for putting that together. Really appreciate that.
Yeah.
I just went through the 7-week beginner course, and I highly recommend.
Thank you.
Please tell my listeners, I will, what you did already. I will put all the information of how to find you and your email, etc., in my notes here. And it was a pleasure talking with you. Was this a birthday wish come true, doing this work that you're doing now?
A birthday wish? Ralph and birthday don't get along. I've taken people out for lunch, just an example, and it was on my birthday, and they don't even know it. And so that's how I do my birthday. It's very quiet. I like quiet.
And that's good.
Yeah.
That's good too. Ralph, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate this.
It's good to be with you. You're amazing. Yeah.
As you are. Thank you.
You're welcome.